It is Saturday morning. You step out onto your front porch with a cup of coffee, and your eyes fall on the iron railing. The paint is flaking away in jagged strips, and underneath it, that bright, ugly orange crust of rust is eating deep into the metal. You know exactly what comes next. A quick trip to the hardware store. A $25 bottle of toxic, foul-smelling rust remover that burns your lungs, or a weekend lost to the bone-rattling vibration of an angle grinder. Inhaling metal dust just to strip it bare. And in a few years, despite all that money and sweat, the orange crust will always return. The cycle repeats, and your good iron turns to dust. Now I want you to sit with this. There is a simple, thick paste you can mix in your own kitchen for about $1. One single dollar. You brush it onto that rusted gate. You walk away to enjoy your Saturday, and while you are gone, a quiet, ancient chemical reaction does the brutal work for you. It eats the rust, leaving the good iron behind, without you ever having to lift a sheet of sandpaper or plug in a single power tool. It is not toxic. It does not smell like a chemical factory. And if you finish the job the way I am going to teach you today, the way the old people did it, that rust will not come back the next morning. My name is Daniel Yoder. I am Amish, and I farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, on a working farm. Iron is the bone structure of our lives. The hinges on the barn doors, the latches on the horse stalls, the old hand plows my grandfather used, and the intricate wrought iron gate my wife Rebecca tends in her flower garden. They are all made of iron. And iron, as my grandfather used to tell me, is always trying to return to the earth. Rust is just the earth calling it home. We have never spent hundreds of dollars on chemical rust converters, and we do not throw good iron away just because it has a little orange on it. We use patience, and we use the simple things God put in the pantry. Today I am going to give you the exact recipe for our rust-removing paste. I am going to show you the exact steps to apply it. But more importantly, I am going to tell you about the true cost of a shortcut. Because right now there are videos circling all over the internet, showing a version of this trick, and they are teaching you to do it in a way that is dead wrong. They are teaching you to rush. They are teaching you to be careless. And their shortcuts will not only fill your kitchen with toxic fumes, but they will guarantee your iron rusts again by the very next day. I am going to show you the two crucial steps the internet leaves out, the steps that actually make the iron last. Stay with me. This is going to change how you maintain every piece of metal you own. Let me start by telling you the truth about the internet videos you might have seen. Because if you do not understand why they are wrong, you will make the same mistake. In these videos, a person takes vinegar and cornstarch, dumps them together in a pot, and puts them on a roaring stove to boil. They tell you to boil it until it turns into a thick paste. I want to be as plain as I can be. Do not ever do this. Here is the chemistry that the person in that video does not understand. The active ingredient in white vinegar is acetic acid. That is the magic that dissolves iron oxide, which is what rust is. Acetic acid has a boiling point. When you put a pot of vinegar on a hot stove and bring it to a rolling boil, you are literally boiling the acid away into the air. You are destroying the very thing that does the work. What is left in your pot is mostly just water and cooked cornstarch. And worse, that acid vaporizing into your kitchen air will burn your eyes, sting your throat, and can cause serious damage to your lungs and the lungs of your children playing in the next room. The modern world loves a shortcut. They think turning up the heat makes things go faster. But a shortcut in chemistry usually just ruins the medicine. My father always said, "A man in a hurry usually has to do the job twice. We are going to do it slow, and we are going to do it right." And while we are speaking of safety, I must give you the honest safety word for this whole project. The people in those internet videos are brushing this paste onto rusted iron and then rubbing the rust away with their bare hands. Do not do that. Rust that sits outdoors, on gates, fences, and old tools, is the natural breeding ground for a bacterium called Clostridium tetani. You know it by its common name. Tetanus. It lives in the dirt and thrives on rusted metal. If you touch that rust with your bare hands and you have even the tiniest scratch on your finger, you are inviting a sickness that can lock your jaw, paralyze your muscles, and put you in a hospital bed. I do not say this to frighten you. I say it because I respect the world we live in. My grandchildren run around this farm all day. When we work with old iron, we wear heavy work gloves always. You respect the metal, you respect the rust, and you protect your hands. That is not negotiable. Now, let us look at the recipe. You need exactly 4 ingredients. You probably have them in your kitchen right now. And if you do not, you can buy them all for a few dollars at any modern American grocery store. First, white vinegar. Not apple cider vinegar, not balsamic, plain, cheap, distilled white vinegar. A gallon costs about $3. This is your acetic acid. It is the workhorse that will eat the rust. Second, cornstarch. A box costs about $2. Cornstarch is the holding matrix. You see, if you just pour vinegar on a vertical fence post, it runs straight off into the dirt. It does not have time to work. The cornstarch turns the liquid into a thick, sticky gel that clings to the metal, holding the acid tight against the rust so it can do its job. Third, plain table salt. A box is 99 cents. This is the secret ingredient the internet videos do not know about. Salt is the accelerator. When you add salt to an acid like vinegar, it supercharges the chemical reaction. It turns a process that would normally take 12 or 14 hours into a process that takes only 3 or 4 hours. It is the difference between waiting all night and finishing the job before supper. Fourth, cooking oil. Just 1 tablespoon of whatever cheap vegetable oil you have. The oil acts as a moisture lock. It prevents the paste from drying out and cracking in the sun before the acid has finished eating the rust. To make 1 batch, which is enough to cover several large iron gate hinges or a long stretch of railing, the cost breaks down to about $1 single. Compare that to the $25 bottle of toxic rust remover at the hardware store. Here is exactly how you mix it, step by step, without destroying the acid or filling your house with fumes. Step 1. Off the heat. In a small bowl, take 3 heaping tablespoons of cornstarch and mix it with just a 1/4 cup of plain water. Stir it until it forms a smooth, milky liquid with no lumps. This is called a slurry. Step 2. Put a small cooking pot on your stove over low heat. Pour your cornstarch slurry into the pot. Slowly, gently warm it while stirring continuously. Within a few minutes, it will start to thicken into a sticky, translucent paste. Step 3. The moment it becomes a thick paste, take the pot completely off the heat. Turn the stove off. Let the paste sit for a few minutes until it is just warm, not dangerously hot. Step 4. Now, away from the stove, you pour in 2 cups of your plain white vinegar. By adding the vinegar after the paste is made and off the heat, you protect the acetic acid. You are not boiling it away. Stir the vinegar into the warm paste. It will take a minute of firm stirring to blend the thick paste and the liquid together into a smooth, even gel. Step 5. Add 2 full tablespoons of table salt and stir until dissolved. Step 6. Finally, add 1 tablespoon of cooking oil and mix it in. There you have it, a powerful, thick, acid-rich gel that clings to metal like glue, accelerated by salt, protected by oil, with all of its chemical strength intact. It took you 10 minutes, and you did not breathe a single harmful fume. Now it is time to apply it. Go out to your rusted iron railing or your garden gate. Put your gloves on. You do not need an angle grinder, and you do not need to sand off the heavy rust. But you should take a stiff wire brush and just give the metal a quick, rough brushing. You are only doing this to knock off the loose, flaky scabs of rust that are already falling off. You want the paste to work on the solid rust underneath, not waste its energy eating loose flakes. Take a cheap paintbrush or an old rag and slather your paste over the rusted iron. Put it on thick. Do not be shy with it. You want a heavy, generous coat covering every spot of orange. Because it is a thick gel, it will stick to the vertical bars of your railing without dripping down onto your concrete porch. Once it is coated, you walk away. Go weed the garden, drink a glass of lemonade, or read a book. The salt in our recipe means you only need to wait about 3 to 4 hours. If you are working on a very hot, sunny day, you might want to drape a plastic grocery bag lightly over the paste just to keep the sun from baking it dry. But usually, the oil in our recipe does that job fine. After 3 or 4 hours, you come back with a garden hose and a simple scouring pad or steel wool. Spray the metal with water and gently scrub the paste away. You will not believe your eyes. The rust will literally slide off the metal like brown mud. Underneath, where there used to be an ugly, textured orange crust, you will see dark, clean, bare iron. It takes almost no physical effort. The chemistry did the heavy lifting. Now I owe you the honest scope of this method, because I will not oversell you. Daniel Yoder does not lie. This thick paste is an absolute miracle for wrought iron fences, decorative gates, stair railings, rusty tools, old horseshoes, and intricate metalwork with nooks and crannies where a sander could never reach. Rebecca has a beautiful, old Victorian-style iron gate leading into her vegetable garden. It has iron leaves and twisting vines, trying to sand that by hand would take a month. Our $1 paste cleans it perfectly in an afternoon. However, if you have a massive, flat piece of metal, like a 20-foot solid steel farm gate, or the entire rusted frame of an old pickup truck, do not use this paste. You would need to mix gallons of it, and it would take forever to brush on. For massive, flat industrial areas, a mechanical wire wheel on a grinder or a spray-on commercial phosphoric acid converter is the right tool. The wise farmer knows which tool fits the job. Our paste is for the details, the railings, the porch gates, and the tools. Now listen to me very carefully. If you stop reading here, if you wash the paste off and call the job done, you will wake up tomorrow morning, look at your gate, and your heart will sink. Because the metal will have turned bright orange again overnight. This is the great failure of the internet videos. They leave you hanging. They do not understand what is happening on a microscopic level. When you wash the paste off with water, the bare iron looks clean to your eye. But deep down in the microscopic pores of that metal, trace amounts of the acidic vinegar are still trapped. And when bare, unprotected iron meets leftover acid and the oxygen in the night air, it causes a violent reaction called flash rusting. The metal rusts instantly. My English neighbor, a good man named Tom, watched a video online and tried it on his porch. Railing. He washed it off, went to bed proud of himself, and woke up to a railing that looked worse than when he started. He ended up driving to the store, buying a $500 sandblaster out of pure frustration, and filling his whole yard with toxic dust. He paid the true cost of a shortcut. You must neutralize the acid, and the way you do that is the missing step, the neutralizing wash. As soon as you have scrubbed the rust away and rinsed the gate with the hose, you must immediately wash the metal with a neutralizing solution. In a small bucket, mix 1 quart of warm water with 3 heaping tablespoons of baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. Baking soda is a strong alkaline base. When you pour or sponge this baking soda water over the bare iron, it penetrates the microscopic pores, searches out the leftover vinegar acid, and neutralizes it instantly. It kills the chemical reaction, dead in its tracks. Once you have wiped the iron down with the baking soda water, dry the metal immediately. Do not let it air dry. Take old towels or a clean cloth and wipe the iron completely, bone dry. The sealing lock. Now you have clean, bare, neutralized iron. But bare iron cannot sit naked in the air. It will slowly rust. Naturally, you must lock the oxygen out. The minute the iron is dry, you seal it. If it is a tool or a mechanical hinge, you spray it generously with WD 40 or rub it down with machine oil. If it is a porch railing or a garden gate, you take a can of good, oil-based rust-inhibiting primer, like a Rust-Oleum primer, and paint a coat right over the bare metal that very afternoon. When you clean it with the paste, neutralize it with the baking soda, dry it, and seal it with primer. You have saved that metal. You have built a fortress over good iron. That gate will stand for another 20 years, strong and clean, and you did the hardest part of the labor for a single dollar out of your kitchen pantry. I want to take a moment, because this is the part that matters most, and it is much bigger than a rusty gate. Think about who profits from your rusted iron. The hardware store profits when they sell you a $25 bottle of toxic gel. The tool company profits when they sell you an angle grinder, safety masks, and endless replacement sanding discs. The manufacturing industry profits when you finally get so frustrated that you throw your good, heavy, antique iron gate into the landfill and buy a flimsy, hollow, mass-produced aluminum gate from a big box store to replace it. An entire economic system is built upon your frustration. They design solutions that are expensive, toxic, and require you to keep coming back. They want you on a subscription model for maintaining your own home. There is no money in telling a man that he can save his grandfather's tools or his front porch railing with a box of cornstarch and a jug of vinegar. Nobody can build a corporate advertising budget around baking soda and salt. No company can patent a chemical reaction that God put in the natural world, so the knowledge was not hidden by villains. In a dark room, it was just outspent. It was drowned out by 100 years of glossy magazine ads and loud commercials for things in plastic bottles. The simple truth was pushed to the bottom shelf, unlabeled and forgotten. We kept this knowledge alive in our communities because we do not throw things away. When an Amish farmer's plow gets rusty, he does not go into debt to buy a new one. He cleans the iron, he oils the joints, and he puts the plow back into the earth. We use the simple things because the simple things do not fail you, and they do not bill you every month. A man who can maintain his own home, who can pull the rust off his own gates without inhaling toxic fumes, and who understands the chemistry of the earth well enough to stop decay in its tracks. That is a man who does not need to ask anyone's permission or pay anyone's exorbitant fee. That is true independence. So here is what I want you to do this weekend. Do not go buy a new gate. Do not buy a sander. Go to your pantry. Pull out the white vinegar, the cornstarch, the salt, and the baking soda. Find a rusted hinge, an old hammer left out in the rain, or a section of your porch railing. Put on your heavy work gloves. Make the slurry off the heat. Warm it into a paste. Take it off the stove. Mix in your vinegar and your salt and your oil. Brush that thick gel onto the rust. Let it sit in the shade for 3 hours. Wash it off, and immediately, do not skip this. Wash it again with your baking soda water. Dry it with a towel. Paint a coat of primer over it. When you stand back and look at that clean, solid, protected iron, you will feel something you have not felt about home maintenance in a long time. You will realize that the power to fix your world has been sitting in your kitchen cabinets all along. Tell me in the comments below. What piece of rusted metal is sitting around your house right now, causing you grief? Is it the front gate, an old cast iron pan, the railing on the steps, or a tool your father gave you? Tell me what it is. And once you have mixed this $1 paste and tried it yourself, come back and tell me how it felt to wipe that rust away like mud. I read every single one of these comments, and the stories you share help every new person who finds this channel. Next time, since we have been talking about saving the things that sit outdoors, I am going to show you the old way we clean and protect outdoor wood. The decks, the porch floors, the wooden furniture that goes gray and moldy. In the rain, we do not use expensive peeling sealants or pressure washers that tear the grain to shreds. We use a natural wash that brings the bright, fresh wood back to the surface, and a simple oil that feeds it from the inside out. It is the natural next step after today. Until then, take off the rust, neutralize the acid, seal the iron tight. And remember, the people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember. That is how the old folks did it. That is how it is still done in any farmhouse that remembers.